Jacki, you must be so much in demand this week. I'm surprised we got you. But between healthcare and investigaterussia.org, which you are obviously involved in, tell us, let's start with that.
Yeah, right. Like
we had Robin and
two
David
hotter
Frum on.
issues at the same time.
What's that?
I said, like, I couldn't be busier and pick two hotter issues at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're like the smart Forrest Gump of this news cycle.
It's not my fault, though, because we thought healthcare was dead. So, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's start with that because I've been, obviously, we've been talking about it all morning, that it is just horrifying. We were saying, like, the fact that we have to call our legislators every couple of months to beg them not to kill us is astounding. And the fact that people like Grassley are saying out loud, well, there's probably 9 reasons not to do this, but we said we would. So they're just going to try to do it with no CBO score, no. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it all. Like, there's really no explanation for it. They're trying to score what they think is a political win, which is actually a huge loser. And, I don't know why they're not willing to back down and say, all right, maybe this isn't the right legislation and we need to take more time with this. They can't admit they're at fault. So they're trying to jam through this terrible piece of legislation, which is going to put millions and millions of people in dire situations. I mean, they're not going to be able to afford access to health care anymore. It's going to take away Medicaid. It's going to strip people of the essential health benefits. It's going to throw people with pre-existing conditions back into the situation they were before the Affordable Care Act. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I don't think you have that kind of time. But it's terrible, and it's even worse than what they voted down the first time. So the fact that they're trying to now jam it through before the September 30th deadline because they don't want to have to get any Democrats on board is disgusting. And it's really just political gamesmanship over policy. And the fact that it's now come to light, I mean, thanks to Jimmy Kimmel and others who have brought this out of the political sphere and more into the popular realm so that, people who don't normally pay attention to Congress are now taking notice, that's important. And it sometimes takes something like that for the story to escalate the level it needs to be, because it is dire.
And Jimmy Kimmel's exactly right. We played, obviously, a couple of sound bites from last night already today. I mean, it is astounding that, of course, they like to paint every comedian or talk show host as stupid and not understanding when he understands, better than, let's just say, Donald Trump and probably half the Republican Party what's in this bill. And they're flat out lying, aren't they, Jacki?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Cassidy and Graham flat out lying to Casey Hunt. You tweeted Senator Barrasso was flat out lying to Katie Tur about Medicaid. She's trying to counter him, but he won't stop talking. And that's their strategy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's a flat out lie. Everything that they're saying is a flat out lie. There are countless healthcare experts who have been in this even longer than I have, who will give you all of the details about what the bill will and won't do. And there's very good will and a lot of won't. And, I look at someone like Jimmy Kimmel, and you can try and discredit him all you want. But all you need to know is he's got a son that was born, with a pre-existing condition. He has seen how the healthcare system works and what the needs are. He is willing to stand up for people who don't make the kind of money that he makes. That's all you need to know, because he's experienced it. And I say this all the time, is that healthcare is very personal, and people don't get involved in the nuances of our healthcare system and healthcare policy until they experience it or somebody that they love does. So he actually is totally in the right and totally experienced with this in a way that these members of Congress who are coddled with their government-funded healthcare, he's experienced it in a way that they haven't, and they can give it lip service, but he's actually lived it.
I mean, you must have, your head may probably have already exploded for any number of other reasons, but Donald Trump actually said, I thought the minute I was elected, I would sit at the Oval Office desk and there would be a health care bill on my desk.
Yeah, well, he needs that junction, what's your function, how a bill becomes a law. He needs that primer again. He doesn't know. And we know this because he sat at the desk and signed a bunch of executive orders and then said he's passed a whole bunch of legislation. I mean, there is no level of stupid that he can't think to. And he just doesn't understand how anything works. And he doesn't care to learn. And that's really the most dangerous part of all of it. He thinks he can fake his way through the next 4 years.
Yeah. Jacki, in all the, obviously, those bluster and horrible tweets and, threat of nuclear Armageddon with North Korea, I mean, this is incredibly like insidious and sort of cynical the way they've advanced this bill without people paying attention, right? Where, Lindsey Graham is obviously John McCain's best friend, so there's that. Then they're throwing everything they can at Alaska so that Murkowski will get on board. I mean, what are you thinking? Are you as nervous as we all are?
I mean, it's disgusting, and I'm nervous to the point that I was more nervous when I came down to the last minute and it was up to John McCain to save us all. I mean, it was a knot in my stomach on that one. My hope is that this doesn't even get that far, but we'll see. I mean, it's getting so much pushback in the press and amongst the public that I'm hopeful that the holdouts who saved us last time will do it again. But we'll see. I mean, we've really now got a week to kind of bite our nails and see what happens, because they're aiming for the September 30th deadline. They don't have to pass it with an actual majority. They have to pass it with a simple majority, which means really 50 votes and then the vice president. So right. They're trying to get it in under the wire so that they don't have to have any hearings, so they don't have to do anything that's under normal procedure. And frankly, if McCain votes for it, then he'll be a huge hypocrite, because he stood on the floor and talked about how important it was to go back to normal order.
Right.
I read an article, the one that really hit me of all the articles that I've been reading and all of the news I've been watching, was somebody said that, nobody in the Republican Party could tell you what's in the bill. Two people have read it, and one of them's not Graham.
Yeah.
And that was a Republican who said it. So, they really don't know, and everybody around them knows they don't know. And the president sure as heck doesn't know. And I think it's on the media now for the next week to continue to press them and to call out the lies. And maybe somebody can push Trump in public and say, look, give us an explainer. Tell us what's in the bill.
Yeah.
I know he's putting it out on Twitter as a bunch of lies, but make him stand up and say it.
Right, exactly. So I was asking earlier in the show, am I the only one being kept awake at night by the ticking Bob Mueller clock? Wondering, will that, before they kill us with Trump care or nuclear Armageddon over North Korea? And so I had obviously Rob Reiner and David Frum on earlier this week, investigaterussia.org. Jacki, how did you get involved in such a thing?
Stephanie Miller, you got me involved.
Oh, let's not dwell on that. Let's get to the important thing. So, as a fantastic journalist, first of all, so what is your role exactly? I am actually the editor-in-chief, which I shouldn't publicize because now the Russians are going to come after me. Right.
I'm a food taster. But
I'm so proud of you. Because you are a fantastic journalist. That is your other hat besides healthcare. And we've talked about this, and obviously talked about it with Rob and David. I think it is so important that this is bipartisan, and that this is not. You are curating all of the. I mean, I wouldn't explain it better for us, but all of the important stuff, so that to help really Americans, just Americans, understand better what Russia has done, is continuing to do. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, so I obviously met Rob and his wife through you, but years ago, and then we just recently reconnected, and they had this idea that they thought the story was super important. I think Rob in particular remembers the duck and cover drills of his childhood.
Yeah.
When you're in school and they say, your school desk is going to save you from a nuclear bomb. Little did they know. But he remembers it, and he remembers what it meant to be at war with the Soviet Union in the Cold War, but at war. And he knows that this is super important. He understands the threat of cyber warfare, the fact that we were attacked during the election, the fact that the Russians do this all over the world, the fact that this is how they compensate for not having the military might that they used to or the superpower status that they used to. And he really wanted to put something together that could help everyday Americans understand, like, what it is and why it matters. And so he reached out to people that he knew on the other side of the aisle, because look, we all know, I mean, if you follow him on Twitter, you follow me on Twitter, we're not fans of the president, but this isn't about attacking the president. It's about putting country over party. It's about making sure that politics stops at the water's edge the way it always has. So all the people who stand up and say, go America, need to appreciate what's happened and why they need to rally around getting to the bottom of what Russia did and putting the right rules and regulations and security forces in place to stop it from happening again.
And understand that they could switch sides, and that's why it matters. They are only interested in sowing chaos and confusion, and it should matter to every American.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just about what happened, but it's what's continuing to happen. And I will say this, that I went from healthcare to this, and I started digging in. I've been working on it for months now, and I've spoken to experts on the cybersecurity side and the national, on the intelligence side, and then also kind of the Russian experts and diplomacy experts. And it's fascinating. I mean, if you're interested in any kind of mystery, crime, drama, like, this is amazing. And the more you read, the more the dots connect themselves.
Yeah.
It's not hard to figure out what happened and what's going on, and then who the players are. So I encourage people to go and spend some time digging around what we put together.
Right. And I love that this just went live, Tuesday? And you've hit a nerve. The headline is Kremlin mouthpiece attacks emotional Morgan Freeman and insists everyone should ignore his Russia video, which is and if you think of anything when you think of Morgan Freeman, it's hysterical. And,
yeah, right. Yeah, we went live Tuesday, and by Wednesday, the Kremlin had an opinion. It's not bad. I mean, you struck a nerve. And what's interesting is in their remarks, they said, it's not based on facts. And our response was, we've got an entire website full of facts. So feel free to weigh in. I mean, one of the things I'm actively doing is making sure that I call all of the sites, right? We're not going to the far left or the far right, but we're trying very hard to stay in the middle and use reputable news organizations to curate that, to make sure that we have as many diverse viewpoints as possible, but within the realm of fact.
Right.
We're not considering opinion fact. And if it's an opinion piece, we'll label it opinion on the front page so everyone can see that it's an opinion.
Right. Well, I that's one of the biggest things we have to get past is this whole fake news, epidemic. And when you look at, Facebook and everything we're learning, I mean, Jacki, it seems to me, and I know we're running out of time, but almost every day there's a new bombshell that you think, this has got to be it. This is all over now, right? I mean, where do you feel like we're at with this? Because there's some pretty significant bombshells just this week, correct?
Yeah. Well, the pattern is everything seems to break around like 3-4 o'clock Pacific time. And
don't I know it?
And it's right when you're heading.
Cocktail hour is inched earlier, Jacki.
Noon somewhere. Yeah, I mean, the stories are breaking, and it's the New York Times and the Washington Post and Business Insider and BuzzFeed and Daily Beast, and, they're all kind of competing to make sure that they're getting the most information out there as accurately and as quickly as possible. I think where we are is that Manafort's in real trouble. I think he knows he's in real trouble. But I think Mueller wants to make sure he's got all the little ducks in a row before he goes public with anything. And I think what we're hearing is intentionally leaked. I don't think there's anyone on Mueller's team who's not at the utmost level of professionalism.
Right.
So I think what we're hearing is intentionally getting out there, and they're trying to make people nervous. And I don't know, if Manafort is the impetus for all of this, if he's got all the information and can turn. We don't really know. I mean, this goes deep. One of the things I encourage people to take a look at on the site is we have this timeline that we borrowed from Bill Moyer's site. Stephen Harper put it together. He's an attorney.
Yeah.
And it shows that Trump has connections to Russians dating back 35 years.
Yep. Well, listen, I want to say this sincerely because I know you called to thank me about, but when the Reiners called and asked, for a recommendation, I could not recommend anyone more highly from your time at CNN when you were, one of the really early internet experts to your work as a journalist at CNN, at Current with me. When you were the first one to get the health care bill, the breaking news about Obamacare correct on the air. I'm so proud of you. And I looked at the site and I thought you are exactly the person for this because it is so journalistically perfect. And anyway, I'm just proud of you. I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you.
Oh, you're so sweet. And I am infinitely grateful for your advice and guidance and friendship. And
well, it's hard to recommend you. You're dumb. You're bad looking. You're awful. Anyway, I love you.
Thank you. I just want to make everyone proud, and I want to make sure that this is a real project we all can be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely, honey. All right, keep checking in with us on it. It is investigaterussia.org. Jacki Schechner, editor-in-chief. That's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's so,
isn't it?
It's so like Lois Lane and meets I don't know whoever her boss was. Okay.
There we went.
and Supergirl all rolled into one. We love you, Jacki.
Love you guys too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.